next line. Yeday hisbonenut. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
The hisbonenut that is provided for, that is possible in the realization that the nefesh habahamit has, even though that the nefesh habahamit recognizes Elokus only within the world, but then there is the possibility of being misboined, of focusing in on the oil eliki that is in the world. And then, focusing on Elokis in the world, he will recognize that in fact there is oil and chayus eliki in every nivra, in every detail in the world. Yeday hisbonenut. Okay, we'll start from here, even though where as a result of the hisbonenut, the ha'amokas hadaas, and the deepening of the Daas, shema migdaite bozeh, that he deepens his Daas in this. I want to discuss a little bit more about Daas in a moment. Eich shebechol dovor, he is mamig, his Daas, in the very phenomenon that in everything, this eich is not just a, so to speak, a philosophical question. How does it work out? He is mamik in the very phenomenon of the whole dover, that in everything, yesh oil v'chayus eliki, there's a godly light and a godly chayus. And then he is mamik his Daas, shehoyikir hu elokus, that the principle and the core of what he observes in the world is the elokus, is not even worldly. As we point out, just on a quick, if we would perceive the world as the world would be perceived on its own, that here today and gone tomorrow, there's nothing about the world. The persistence and the continuing existence, and the fact that the world has a substantiated presence, this is the elokus element. This is what you are really relating to. Not the past, the moment, but the reality of it. And his mamik daite bozeh. I want to explain the principle hamokas hadaas. We already discussed it. It's important to understand a phenomenal difference between how a human being, even the nefesh habahamit, that we already pointed out, perceives and relates to the world, and how lahavdil, an animal relates to the world.
Can I ask you before you start? We pointed out the first time around when we learned that hisbonenut is actually a mokas hadaas, I think, because we were saying that going through chokhmah and bina and establishing what it is not called hisbonenut. Is it true?
No, hisbonenut starts with bina, and it ends up in Daas. What is Daas? So I started saying, there's a principal difference between the human relating to the world, how he relates to the world, and how the animal relates to the world. The animal relates to the world what we would call at arm's length. In other words, he doesn't really care about the world. There is not a reality to the world, but for its effect upon his existence. Like we said the other day, the animal, why does he eat? Not because he wants to live. Wanting to live means to be a participant in the world. He doesn't care to be a participant. He wants to eat so that one doesn't feel hungry. The human being, even the nefesh habahamit, this is the principle of seichel, that he relates to what's called the reality of things. Reality means how things are real in and of themselves, not merely how they affect him. As a matter of fact, the reason they affect him is because he cares about it, because they are real. Like we pointed out in this classic question we asked, what is the reaction of a human being to the suggestion that maybe the world should just go into oblivion, into non-existence, avoid all the suffering, just eliminate, let the world just go to pot instantaneously. So they say, no, this is impossible. That's unpardonable. I can't accept that. Why? Because I really care. This is reality. This is reality. Even the nefesh habahamit relates to the world as a reality, and he cares for what is happening in the world. And when he sees something tragic happening in the world, he is personally hurt. It is a personal loss. This is the principle of Daas. Daas means that he is actually relating, is actually participating in this reality. They said yesterday, Seichel, Chochmah, and Bina provide a glance, a recognition, which is wonderful. But without Daas, there is not a reality in this whole in the whole process of Chochmah and Bina. This is why it says Daas. This is the key to Midas. Midas means Chesed and Gvura. Midas means how you relate to others, how you relate to the world. Without Daas, you don't relate. Makes no difference. It's important to understand that a human being is a bar, that's what's called a bar das. What's a bar das? You don't say a bar seichel, say a bar das. A bar das means that things are significant to him. Not just how they will reflect upon him, but how they are really significant. You know themselves. Where is this Das rooted? Where does the Das come from? Am I bothered what's going on in the world? So, to give us a little bit of a handle on this principle, it's a very, very phenomenal principle. But just to give us a handle on it, as I said, you can observe the goings on in the room through the window. And then, really, you're observing, you're an observer. And you can see everything, you're just an observer. Then there is a completely different relationship. You are inside the room. If you're inside the room, then you also are fully aware of everything that's going on, but not as an observer, as being part of it, as a participant. Then everything really matters to you. For example, a very simple example. You look through the window and you see that the floor is dirty. Okay. It's not a very pleasant sight. That doesn't bother you. It's dirty. But if you're inside the room and the floor is dirty, it bothers you. Even though you're not sitting on the floor, you're not going to eat from the floor, it bothers you. Because then you are fully a participant, you are in fully view. This is called Daas. Bar Daas means a person who is bedas, related to participant in life and in the world. The human being has been given a gift of Daas. This is why the human being was entrusted with the world. You come to the world. Why? Because you have Daas. You really value it. You really are capable of experiencing, of recognizing its value and its importance. Therefore, I entrust it to you. If you were going to be destructive, I wouldn't entrust it to you. Where is that Daas? The root of this Daas, I said, is the principle that I'm not an observer. I am really part of this. They say, why am I part of it? Because I'm part of godliness. I'm going higher and higher and higher. And this is why he comes to the conclusion, really, what I'm really relating to is to the ikor, is to the reality itself. All this is within reach in the capacity of the nefesh habahamit. Because the nefesh habahamit, as we explained in the last few days, is a living nefesh, is life. Again, I'm stepping off for just 1 second. Just as, in order for this chair to exist, it has to have the space in which it exists. The space is what provides it with its being. So, mokim ponui, this is what provides for it a place to be. This chair outside in the street would not be a chair, would not have its significance whatsoever. Because it's provided for in this Gashmizik room, therefore it becomes a chair. And it's a respectable entity. This is on the Gashmizik level. So too on the life level. Life is even more intrinsically connected and united with the source of life. I want to go a step deeper, and either we get it or we don't. The truth is, when we say this exists, the statement this exists, means to say that there is an overall existence, and this is a participant in that existence. Nothing exists on its own, independently of the overall existence. If there is no recognition of overall existence, then nothing exists. This is true on the physical level, how much more so on the life level. This is therefore the nefesh habahamit that really is not bent on, not recognize Elokus per se, independently. It recognizes Elokus by ha'or Elokus, how it affects in the world. But even the nefesh habahamit knows that the Iyar in the world is the chayes. This comes with nefesh habahamit as a result of the hisbonenut. What is he misboining? He's misboining in the truth that it itself recognizes. And then he has to reveal that truth through hisbonenut. And then after he reveals his truth in Godliness, he goes into Daas, he steps in and becomes a participant in this truth. And that becomes, this is real Avodas Hashem. This is where he makes a statement that in this physical world, what is the Iyar? That's Avodas Hashem.
What is a breakdown between what you just said? There is hisbonenut, meaning when he realizes how this particular thing is a part of the overall reality, and then you're saying that there is a Daas that he becomes a participant in it. What is a what is it?
Okay. Abraham, there are three distinct states. And you do not come to Das by affecting it. Das you have because you have Das. You don't create Das. So when we are misboinen with Seichel. But when we misboinen with Seichel, because the Rebbe also gave us the Moyach HaDas, then we become affected. Hey, this is so real. Yes, this really means something to me.
I see.
This is all residue. It's residue from the Chochmah Chitzenis, from the scientific, scientific. It's not science. It's just a stupidity. That everything is affected by your experience. It's not true. There is a neshama that the Rebbe gave you.
So each.
How do I get Das? Oh, because I see this. No, it's not. I have Das because the Rebbe gave me Das.
So Hamakas of Das is a Taitzah from hisbonenut. It's an outcome of hisbonenut. It's not
right,
a verb.
no.
There's no such thing to be mamik, it's not a verb.
It's not.
To be mamik Das.
Mamik Das is like this. After his bonus, he senses this reality. That's when Das comes into his, oh wow. And then he is mamik in this Das deeply, and that becomes the reality in which he participates, in which he lives. Das means Hamokas HaDas. A Rav has to deal with a din Torah. People are arguing. You can argue, you can deal with the din Torah at arm's length. This one says this, and look and Shulchan Paskin. If he doesn't really care about the welfare of his people, if he does not really understand what an argument is and what life is, he has no business being around. Know the story with Baal Shem Tov? The story is like this. Baal Shem Tov was a shoichet oifis. Before he became known, because Mizgali was a shoichet. And then Baal Shem Tov was Mizgali. So someone else took over the shchita position from Baal Shem Tov. So this lady sent her maid to the shoichet with the chicken. That's how it used to be. It was no shchita line. You have a chicken, bring it to the shoichet. So this maid goes to the shoichet and comes back. The chicken is alive. Not shoichet. So what happened? The shoichet wasn't there. So the maid says, no, the shoichet was there. So how come you didn't shut? She says, I used to go to Srul. I used to go to Srul. And used to then sharpen the knife. And in order to sharpen the knife, he would have to wet the stone. He would wet the stone with his tears. This shoichet, he's got a pot of water. And he takes water, wets his stone with his water. To this shoichet, I'm going to have my chicken. The Gemara says, Sheichet is to tofish al Amalek. The Baal Shem Tov was not to tofish al Amalek.
What's Amalek?
He's a partner with Amalek.
Because he doesn't care.
What? Yeah, he just takes a chicken
Just-
and cuts it.
Uh,
Okay? Hopefully it's not, I mean, you have to know, at least Yerushalayim, he's concerned about the kosher shkita. I mean, it has to be something real. It cannot be just like that, to cut heads. Okay, let's just go. So then, this Daas brings him to recognize Ho'ikir Ho'elakus. Why is Ho'ikir Ho'elakus? Because Mr. Daas, there has to be reality. It's not just a logical thing. And therefore the Holocaust is the Ikir. In terms of the reality, the Holocaust is what provides for the existence of everything. Ubiprat, and particularly, sheyizboinen be'oifen ha'oir v'hachayus, ha'olekisha bo'el. If he goes deeper and is boinen in the manner that the oir chayes oliki that it comes into the world, biprotei chelkei naran ho'eliki, biprotei chelkei hanaran, in the detail, the different levels of Elokus. So it's called nefesh, ruach, neshama ho'eliki, hamislapshim bo'ilmas. In everything, there is a nefesh, there's the ruach, and there's the neshama element, the godly element, the godly level, the way the godliness is established in the world. That's to give us a little bit of a handle on this. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, elokim, mislapshim bo'ilmas. The nefesh is the that which maintains the physical presence. Like we said, without the nefesh, without life, the goof would not exist more than a second, a day. How long does a goof continue to be without a life? Ruach is how the goof, how this entity recognizes its surrounding, the ruach. We can take it even from a simple life element, from the tree. A tree draws its sustenance, its physical sustenance from the earth. But then the tree spreads its wings in the air, and it draws it also from the air and from the sunlight. It doesn't live only from the earth. And then there is the neshama element. What is the message of the tree? Everything has its effect, its purpose, its complement to the world. This tree, its union is to produce shading. This tree is to produce fruit. And he is misplaining in each one of these aspects that this is nefesh, ruach, neshama, ho'eliki. That's in the world. So if he's misplaining in all of these details, hamislapshim bo'ilmas, ho'kamesha kosa b'makim acher, as it's described elsewhere, Yiskare bozeh el ha'oir ho'eliki. Thereby he will come closer to the oir eliki. Even though it's a behemoth, a human being, a nefesh habahamit. But he senses, he is sensitive to life. So even though initially he came from a worldly awareness, but when he identifies in the world, the union from the Holocaust, or Ha'or Elikis, and then he focuses in on the Ha'or Elikis, that's it, hisbonenut. The more he focuses on the Ha'or Elikis, the more he identifies the godly phenomenon in the world, he becomes more imbued, he becomes more interested in the Eloki element than in the world element. Yiskare boza hoazeh Elokus, he becomes closer to Elokus. Elohei Eloki. Venitak, and he becomes distant, he dissociates, he breaks away. Mechitzenius v'gashmis ho'el. From the external and the physicality of the world. Which means that he does not desire the Hagashmi. He has no pull to Gashmi Zikinyan. Rather, kol hefzo yurtzoi noihu be'elokus. His entire will and wish is in the Elokus, v'sheyiyeh gilui Elokus bo'elam, and his whole dream and his wishes are that there should be gilui Elokus bo'elam, that Elokus should be begilui ubenafshe, should be gilui Elokus in his nefesh. He should actually be able to experience and live with Elokus.
This is Tzaddik with Toivle already. This is
No, it's not Tzaddik with Toivle. This is the Aveda for nefesh habahamit.
Yeah, but the rotzen of the nefesh habahamit is nor Elokus. It's not there.
The difference between that and the tzaddik v'toivloi is that after the hisbonenut and after the Daas is ended, he loses it.
Really?
He loses that sense. He goes right back into Godliness, into the world. He's capable of it. This is what we're saying the whole time.
It's a little bit more refined, no?
It's very refined. It is nevertheless there because he's currently focused on this. He's capable of this focus, but he's still basically bound to worldliness. It doesn't take long for him to step back in. Not necessarily willingly, but that's what happens.
So he's constantly needs to rejuvenate this.
Yes. And that's what Avodah is. Every morning, every day, whatever it is, that's what the Alter Rebbe says. A Beinoni who has Abba v'yira. Beinoni has Abba v'yira. In davening has Abba v'yira. And after davening, Ki'ilu lo hispal klal. You look at him, you can't even tell that he davened. What does that mean? Who looks at it?
Baina means every person, or Baina means someone who is already refined to be a Bainani?
To be a Bainani, you have to have been refined enormously. Because Stamaza, you can have Abba v'yira, you're just not into it. So this, what we're describing here, is a long trek. This is 3 lines, but these 3 lines can take a long time.
This that
What?
this that you always talk about in terms of, like, you say that I'm holding up the cup, and when we're looking at the world, what we're really seeing is we're seeing the holding up of we're seeing that Hashem is taking out the sun, and this is the Inyan that you come to through these hisbonenut. In other words, you realize that you're not just experiencing the gashmias that you're
this is speaking a step further. This is, you're still holding, you're seeing the cup, but you're saying that Hashem is holding the cup. Thank you, Rebbeinu Shalom, for holding my cup. Here we're talking about something else. I'm not interested in the cup. I'm interested in the koyach haliki, in the oil haliki that's holding it up. Why is it holding up? What's its in? Nefesh, ruach, and neshama. What is this about? From a godly perspective.
I missed the ruach part.
Huh?
When you went through this nefesh neshama, I missed the ruach part. You said the nefesh is the highest of it.
Well, I gave you an example. A tree draws its nourishment from the earth,
Right.
but it also spreads its wings in the fresh air, and it depends on the fresh air, which means the experience of life.
That's ruach.
That's the ruach. Then neshama is its purpose, but it actually how it serves the mace, it serves the world.
You're saying that the nefesh is poshet how it survives, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And the ruach is more like like you said, experience of life.
Right. Just give you an example, and if you're misboiling this in, you will see to identify the various things in everything. ובעניונים הגשמיים gufo, and then in the gashmis, the inyonim themselves. Okay, I just want to finish this. Ma shemuchrach bohem, the inyonim hagashmi, that which he is compelled, he is bound up, he can't survive without gashmius. Ritzoy noi gam kein b'holakusha bohem. Then it reaches to a point where when he has to do with gashmius, he wants the lakus that is contained in the gashmius.
Also.
His focus is in the lakus. Through the gashmi he gets the lakus, but essentially he wants the lakus. Hainu. How does that translate practically? Loy lemalo istavas nafsh. You're not eating in order to satisfy David's nafsh. I'm hungry, so I eat. So we said the last few days, hungry, so I eat. This is the animal's response.
You eat to live.
He eats to live. Ki'im shebekoyach zeh yilmut v'yispali. So that with this koyach of this achila, he'll be able to learn and then yispal. In other words, he is looking for the alakus that is provided through this gash. Okay. Now, this sounds simple. Just want to warn you, it's not simple at all. It's, even to understand, it's not simple. Certainly not to get there. So, be cautious. Don't fly off the deep end. Have a great day.
This that you said about the holding up the cup, so that basically is just describing the level of a healthy nefesh habahamit. In other words, just this is like baseline.
This is basically what he sees. Right? He sees a living world. And then he sees a living world, and they have the behemoth, the nefesh habahamit of the goy, or nefesh hayidin also get caught up in. Okay, the world is a real place. And he forgets about the fact that it's being held up. Look at this, it's such a well-structured sun. And he says, forget about the sun. The earth gets its own nourishment from by rotating around its axis.
That's not normal. That's not a normal...
This is not a seichelic way of looking at things. Not seichel. That's why I said, this is instinct. It's a completely different, the furthest thing from seichel, from intellect. Have a great day.
We're saying that hisbonenut is called hisbonenut, or nefesh is avoided during davening, and nefesh habahamit it's during the day when it faces the world, right? It's kind of what did we say that?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Saying that with this whole hisbonenut, when does it take place?
Kilo la voy a ser, Rabanu, Atoy Shanu, Verasis Rabanu.